It's the Mike Tech Show, show number 829. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Mike Smith. Thank you very much for downloading and subscribing to the show. Please visit the main website at miketechshow.com. You can email me questions and suggestions for show topics at miketechshow@gmail.com. Please visit the YouTube page for the Mike Tech Show where you can get all of the videos, and that's at youtube.com/Michael Smith MTS. And please click on subscribe. I would really appreciate you subscribing if you haven't already. This show is brought to you by Instant House Call. Remotely support your customers unattended and on demand. If you are an IT pro or an MSP, this is what you need for your remote access. And you can try it free for 15 days by just going to instanthousecall.com, download the trial, and please use the promo code Mike Tech Show. Or just go to miketechshow.com and you can click on the link on the left-hand side of the website. This show is also brought to you by Magnus Box. As a matter of fact, I'm a little late starting the show tonight because a new system being set up for a client, and I had a remote in. I instant house called into the system to install the Magnus Box client. It is so easy. I went into the main dashboard and created the user account for that client. Set up the account, picked where the storage they're going to store it. It's very simple, and Magnus Box has all the tutorials. If you need online backup for any operating system, this is it. This is what you need. And you can easily sign up as a reseller and start selling, making money, reselling Magnus Box. You can white label it with your company. If you mention to Magnus Box that you heard it on the Mike Tech Show, you get free white labeling and an additional 50% off the platform fee for the first 3 months. It's an incredible deal. Go over there, magnusbox.com, kick the tires, test it out with your own system, and run it through its paces. You will love it. All right. Now, I want to go over everything for tonight's show. We're going to talk about my vinyl record stand that I just bought, and there's a reason, and I have to talk about it. DNS and Web Designers, and we have a web designer in the chat that emailed me, and I am going to read his email. He also has an email question, and I just want to talk about the response that I got from IT people in the trenches. Bridging to network cards, and then we're going to talk a little bit about Duckduckgo. So, let's see. Hold on. You know what? The chat says it's scroll. It's paused, and I don't know how to. Oh, there we go. It was. I just figured out how to unpause it. Okay. So let's begin. I have 58 vinyl records, and that's starting to be a trend. And my two sons are visiting the last 2 weeks. Matter of fact, we're heading back on when are we heading back? Heading back this weekend. So I purchased this rack I'm putting up on the screen, a vinyl rack with really nice little wheels, and I wanted something that was not real deep because I want to have it in my closet. And anybody that watches me on the video, you know, I have it right on the closet behind me, and I want to be able to open it up. And I figured, let me just roll it out. It's only 10.2 inches deep. With the wheels, it's 14.2, 17.7 wide. It is perfect, the perfect height. 58 albums fit beautifully on the top. We assembled this yesterday. As a matter of fact, my youngest son assembled it. I was like, boy, this is going to be great. And as I was putting my vinyl records on the top, it collapsed. That wheel goes into a piece of plastic that then attaches to the metal. It is a horrible design. It just collapsed on the weight of the vinyl. So, a warning for anybody looking at racks and you're going to hold the vinyl records. They are heavy, and you got to make sure if there is a wheel, even look at the wheel where it's offset from the weight of and the distribution of how the rack sits. Horrible design. We were able to push the plastic back in, took the wheels off, and they do give you flat pieces that you don't move. The rack is perfect, not moving. So this rack's recommended, but not for the wheels. And there are a lot of racks that I was just looking at and my kids were looking at. When you look at the design, you have to think logically. It just will not support the weight of the vinyl. And that's just a really big problem. So they show pictures here with all that weight, and it's not possible. And if you look at the reviews, that's exactly what happens. Or anybody who bought it, so why didn't I read the reviews? You know what? I was blown away by it was the perfect size. And wheels, they weren't the defining factor. That's why I kept the rack and didn't return it, because it sits beautifully right behind me in the closet, and I can just roll my chair over and pick what I want. So given that, I made the decision yesterday not to take it apart, send it back. I could have easily got a full refund and then bought something else. But then I started thinking, maybe I'm better off with it not rolling because it is so heavy, and started thinking logically how I'm going to use this. So anyway, just be very, very, very careful when you're buying anything like that. Just, you don't want to have it fall apart. And I'm glad the wheel crushed. And I'm holding up, this is one of the wheels, and the wheel didn't break. It was the piece that it would screw into just completely broke, or just came out because it just can't hold the weight, and the whole thing just came down. So I was lucky that no vinyls got hurt in the process. And I yelled. My kids came running into my office to help me unload it and get everything set up. So anyway, that was yesterday, and I figured, I got to start off the show talking about that. So now I want to get to the topic that I brought up last week about DNS and web designers, because this is not, I don't mean to disparage anybody that's a web designer that knows what they're doing. It's the web designers that don't know what they're doing that we are complaining about, because they will take the name servers over for our clients, not having any consideration for the MX records or the SPF record, or for that matter, any other records other than the A record that's going to be set up for them for the IP address. And my clients don't get mail anymore. I'm throwing this out there. These are unmeasured numbers, but boy, it's 100% of the time. Any one of my clients that they go on their own, getting a website. Now, I don't do websites, so I'm perfectly honest. I understand DNS, but I don't understand graphic design and websites, and I don't want to. So anytime a client gets a web designer, gets somebody, and they're setting up their new website, I get a call the day after they go live, sometimes later that afternoon. Whenever they go live, I get the call, our email's not working, Mike. And then the first thing I do is I check their MX records. Their MX records aren't there. They're gone. So, or they're the default for wherever the hosting is. And I'm like, you change your website? Yeah, that changed yesterday. Well, give me the name, because I'm going to have to work with him. And we're going to have to bring everything back. Now, luckily for my clients, you become a client of MHS Consulting, I absolutely go. Now, I absolutely take a snapshot of the current DNS for any of my clients. Now, I'm going to read an email from Kurt, who is in the chat and just typed, you don't hear when things work right. That is correct. I don't hear when things work right. So to be fair, I only hear when it's blown up. So that is a fair assessment, and you are correct, sir. So that was a very good point. I mean, no one's going to tell me, hey, we just got a new website and our email's working. They don't. So here's Kurt's email. Hi, Mike. I think your condemnation of web developers was a little too broad brushed. I am offended. I've moved clients from one web hosting environment to another, some more than once, and have never had any problems with email transitions. Let's pause right there. 4 emails. Mike, Aaron, Don, and Alan have written to me, and one publicly in the messages for on YouTube, have all completely agreed with me in that this is a major problem with IT support where this happens. And unfortunately, it gives a bad name, but the bad name is is within the IT community. I don't think the clients realize this. They don't, and they shouldn't understand. They don't. My clients shouldn't have to know DNS, but what they don't do is bring it. They know I don't do websites. They know MHS Consulting does not do websites, so they don't engage us when they're doing that. And I wish they would. Any client that does engage us, or this happened to them before, and they're making another change, and they know now, bring me in the loop for this to be happening, because my way of handling it is I talk to the developer, the designer, and I say, when it's all done, give me the IP address for the A record, and I will make the change in the DNS, and I'll stop what I'm doing. I'll make it happen right away. You just tell me. As a matter of fact, a couple developers, I think, got burned. Their hand, they touched the stove, they got burned. They dealt with IT people that didn't take care of them like I do. So on the converse side, and I guess I'm defending some of the web developers, they don't trust the IT people to be able to respond and make the changes as quickly as they want and when they want them. Because I know I blew away one of the web designers for one of my clients, and this was just a couple weeks ago. They reached out to me first. I'm like, oh, thank you. And I talked to the web designer, and she was very nice, and she says, no, I get it. I understand. But there's going to be a lot of changes I gotta make, and can you do them quickly? I said, yes, I can. You just send them to me. And she was blown away at how fast I responded, and they were all done correctly. So she's had the same experience that I've had, but the converse. She's had bad experiences with IT people. So I just think it's funny, and I had to go over this. Let me continue with Kurt's email. Some of my clients have their email hosted on the same hosting accounts as their websites, while others use third parties like Google. I know a number of local web developers and can't think of any that I wouldn't trust to move my DNS records from one server to another. I'll be charitable, however, and forgive you. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Going to pause just a second. And you know, it's interesting. My phone, I have my iPad up and... Oh, okay. I seen a text message from my wife and I wanted to, and I couldn't read it. I just seen it go across on the iPad and I just needed to stop. And now that's on video, but it's not on the audio here. So let me unpause. Let me continue. I don't know if any of your clients are affected by this. Oh, okay. So, Kurt, I do sympathize with you. And yes, I never thought about, you really made a great point tonight, which is I only hear about the bad. And I probably, yes, there are several clients that possibly have gotten websites and not told me and nothing broke. So, but it's like printers and multifunction. I'm training my clients, trying to get them to understand, bring me in, or, hey, I can't tell you how many people have gotten a phone system without telling us. I want to know any IT addition, change, whatever you're doing. And if I have nothing to do with it, I want the right of first refusal saying, hey, thanks for letting me know. I can't add any value to this. So, by the way, this is a comment to Jonathan in the chat. If you're in the chat and you type a link, it's not allowed. So we can't see it unless you're a moderator. So do a private message to the moderator with your link, and the moderator will post it in the chat. That's set up by default. And that's why when you see Tony or Taz or Tim or Photo Ray, if they put their moderators in the Twitch chat and they can post anything. So let one of them know your link and then they will do it. All right. So, but you're right. If they want to test things out, they can set something up, and as long as it doesn't mess up, search results. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, let's see. Enough on that. Kurt continues. I don't know if any of your clients are affected by this. Google is eliminating the free Google Workspace accounts that were created before about 2012. Although they said that'd always be a free option, they stopped offering new free accounts in 2012 or so, but kept the old grandfathered accounts until this year. Starting later this year, Google will be charging $6 and up for each account per user, with the amount determined by the selected plan. There will be a 50% discount for the first paid year and a 3-month initial free period. Since the accounts were free up to a maximum of between 110, they lowered it over time. Accounts were established for different functions that didn't represent individual people. Here's the solution for a couple of such clients. Some email accounts will continue to exist and support normal email. Some email accounts were created for specific purposes, sales at and info at. Now to save, and I call them aliases, or I'll set up a distribution list for that email address, and they're free when I'm working with SureWeb. Now to save money, would like to consolidate 2 of those accounts. So sales at abc.com continues to exist just as it did before. all of the existing email messages in the info@abc.com account get moved and merged into sales account. They might be moved into a specific new folder. The info at email account gets deleted after we've safely copied all the old messages. An alias gets added that routes messages addressed to info and sales. I do that all the time. Outlook from Microsoft 365 is the preferred email client, and all the connections are IMAP. Why? If you're doing, well, because it's going to be Google. Because if you have the true Microsoft 365 and you have an Exchange email account, you do not want to use IMAP. But since you put here you're using IMAP, I'm going to go with that. My question for you is, how do I copy move the existing info at abc.com messages into sales at account? I suspect the method involves copying and maybe merging PST files. Yes, it does. This web developer is smart enough to know when to ask for help when he needs it. Thank you, sir. Yes. Much thanks for all the valuable information you provide to your listeners. Keep up the good work. And I emailed Kurt, and I'll review that right now, exactly what you have to do. So the account that you're going to be deleting and then making it an alias. So that's info at. You get an Outlook client set up with a new profile just for that account. And you can use any Outlook account. I've done this many times on my own Outlook on my machine, my main machine here, where I'll just create a new profile for this account. And then set up the IMAP, set up however it is, let it all come down. You got to go in and make sure you're getting all the messages. Do a search of something real old. Then go online and search and make sure you've got everything and it's completely done. Once you know you have all the email, piece of cake. Right, go into, as a matter of fact, I will launch Outlook 365 right now. If I want to export, I just click File, then go to Options. Then you have to go to Advanced. Once you go to Advanced, scroll down, and this is bad labeling by Microsoft. It just reads Export, but it's really what you have to do for import also. So you click Export, click that, and now you get a whole lot of choices. You want to export to a file. You go next. You want to pick Outlook data file PST. Then you go next. Now go to the tippy top of the email account so you can get everything. And there's a checkbox that's by default, it's checked. You want to make sure it's checked and it reads include subfolders. So I'm going to pick my MHS Consulting, include subfolders. Next, it's going to give you a default directory. Now, when I'm doing this, I always allow duplicate items to be created because I don't want to make any decisions on deleting anything. So I allow duplicates. But that's another sneaky way to get rid of duplicates if you're going to do that. Like maybe you're exporting contacts or something. So little tip there. So now I click Browse and I make sure I'm naming it and placing it in the directory that I want. You do that till it's finished. You know, just keep going next, next, next. When it's finished, you now have a PST. That's it. You could actually load any profile, maybe your personal one, and just add that as a file, and you can see that data file and just make sure it's all there. Now, once you've done that for any accounts that you know you're going to be transitioning like that, now you can go make your move. You can go delete, and you can go create the alias. And now what I would do is create a profile for sales. Get sales, get it all down. Now you can import that PST file right to the same spot at the tippy top of sales and let it just blow through. Or if you want to cherry pick whatever you want, just some folders or some things, probably not, you want everything, add it as a data file. And then you can just drag up from the data file into the IMAP, and it will sync back to the server, and it will add. This will take time depending on how big the mail account is. So, Kurt, I hope that helps. Email me if you have any other questions, and good luck on that. So, ran into a problem with a client. We need to really bridge two Ethernet cards together. Man, I started doing it at the switch, and I don't know why. I really don't know why I was doing it at the switch, because it's so much easier to do at the server, and it is a piece of cake to bridge. I haven't done that in a long time. So, link in the show notes is going to be how to bridge two Ethernet cards together, and it's stupid simple, and it works. So, you just literally click settings. After you go to network connections, settings, and then view network connections on the list, you hold the control key down on the keyboard and click on the two icons. And then when you hit the control on those two, and then I think you just right click and you can bridge connections. Right click either of the selected icons and then bridge connections. Boom, done. Piece of cake. So the next link, which is actually the last link for tonight's show, is a client emailed me and said, Mike, she was talking to a friend, and my client, who trained very well for searching that's safe searching, she said, oh, use DuckDuckGo. And the person said, no, I'm not going to use DuckDuckGo. DuckDuckGo's owned by Google. They bought them a year ago. And my client asked me that, and I was like, wow, if they did that very, very quietly, because I certainly didn't hear that, and I know I would have. I've got an incredible listening army out there that would have screamed to the highest heavens that, you know, that's so bad and opposite of what, you know, the whole what DuckDuckGo is doing. That is untrue. So DuckDuckGo is, and the founder and CEO is Gabriel Weinberg, and I've actually met him when DuckDuckGo was starting out, and they're a company in Paoli, Pennsylvania, which is just outside Philadelphia a little bit. So DuckDuckGo, years ago, when they were starting, came to the Philadelphia Area Computer Society. I remember hearing them talk about this private search engine where they don't keep your information. They want to have the privacy. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. And you're supposed to be getting, and you do, unbiased, unfiltered data for a search entry when you go to DuckDuckGo. And it avoids filter bubbles. The article that I have is great. Does Google own DuckDuckGo? And it's no. What DuckDuckGo is privately owned, and it's what's it, 170 million, I think, in financing it, and it is not owned by Google. So I don't know where that started or how that comes about, but it seems like that's kind of common a little bit out on the internet. And it just goes to show you can't trust everything that you read. And I mean, do we trust this? This was the best explanation, but I have several sources that confirm this information. So what I wanted to do was present what I think is the best description of the origins of DuckDuckGo, who owns it, and anything, here you go, is DuckDuckGo safe? Which is better, DuckDuckGo or Google? That's a good question, because Google keeps all your information and you may not get the same results. So, it's mileage will vary, I guess, is the best way to describe this. Anyway, it's a good little read, and I just wanted to let everybody know, DuckDuckGo, I believe it's still safe. If you have evidence that contradicts that, please let me know. Here's another rumor, and they say, no, it isn't. Is DuckDuckGo a Chinese company? So what this is kind of addressing the some of the false stories on the internet about DuckDuckGo. And now, the suspicious person that I am, boy, is Google secretly planning some of those misconceptions about DuckDuckGo because they don't want to lose people using the search engine? I don't know. Can't say that. Can't confirm that. Would it shock me? Absolutely not. So that's why it's so hard to disseminate information on the internet. You got to question your source. You got to make sure. And it's hard to just, you search something and pick it and that's it. Well, no. And that's what gets clients into trouble and keeps all of us MSPs, IT support, all of us in business, is clients Googling for the answer, and then they go down a path, make things worse, and then we get the panic phone call, and we got to sort it all out. What did you change? Because Googling an answer, you got to know how. And what do you mean, got to know how? Well, how many ads are at the top results, or leading you down a path to buy some software that's not going to do anything for you to try to solve your problem. If you're an IT guy, or girl or whatever, I didn't mean that to be, you're an IT person, you have to know how to weed out the bad results and to be able to hone in and see if there's a solution. This happens all the time when I'm looking for a specific error. Can't tell you, the first 25 are not the answer, and they say, solved, and this is it, and it's in a reliable, it's a reliable place, Microsoft Community or something, but the answers sometimes aren't the right one. Sometimes you got to go through several solutions, before you can even do it. Anyway, I hope this helps. And if anybody questions you about DuckDuckGo, you have a site that you can send them, and hopefully this will help. But again, please let me know if there's any contradictions to that. That is it. A story also that was happening tonight, that system that I logged into right before the show started, my son had to move all the data and settings from one system to another one. Fabs Auto Backup Pro, the best. Oh, I have, Jack in the Box just said something about Bing. I need to. Oh, I have to comment back on that. So, Fabs Auto Backup Pro, link will be in the show notes for you to purchase it. That is the ultimate product, and my son was on site making that all happen, and then he ran into a little problem with QuickBooks. He did really good. 2 of the databases came up. The third one didn't. I got a call. I remoted in. I fixed that, and I said, hey, I'm here. They also want to add Fabs Auto Backup Fabs Auto Back. They want to add Magnus Box, so let me get Magnus Box on there. And of course, we put Instant House Call because we do that on every system. So, I live what I talk about. I use them every day. Jack in the Box in the chat. Bing, he mentions Bing, and just this week, a client called me and said, when we type our company name, or when a client types the company name, they don't get it. But yet when I type it in Chrome, it comes up, but in Edge, it doesn't. And I said, I started thinking about this, and I was like, where are you searching? Chrome, his default is Google. Edge was Bing. I said, do me a favor. While you're in Edge, go to Google, type your company name. Came right up. I said, why isn't it being listed in Bing? I said, who does your website? And it's a CPA company. They're a CPA firm, and there's a very specific company that does a lot of CPAs' websites and everything. I said, you're not optimized for Bing and for your search results. You need to talk to them about the search engine optimization for Bing, which I know nothing about. Nothing. So what I recommend is, it's interesting. My client thought it's a browser problem. And now I said, when you tell a client, make sure you tell them, go to Google and search it. I don't even know if it's coming up in DuckDuckGo, but I said, go to Google, search it. And even if it's in the browser Edge. So it's very interesting, that Jack in the Box mentioned Bing, and that story popped up into my head because that was literally on Tuesday morning. One of my first phone calls this week was about Bing versus Google for one of my clients. That is it for tonight. And next week, I will be back in Pennsylvania and doing the show from there. I got a lot of things to hook up. I got the ring light to hook up. I got my fingerprint login. I have a lot of things to do. I'm going to be getting back very, very late Sunday night. I got a busy day. Monday, stories from the trenches, I already can guarantee for Tuesday and Wednesday next week, because I'm going to be on site with clients. They're all excited to see me because it's been a few months. And I call it the Mike Smith client tour for the summer, where I make sure now to spend some FaceTime with all my clients and say hello, because they haven't seen me in a while. And just the pandemic and then me becoming a snowbird. It's really, I don't have that FaceTime with the client. Zoom's fine, but there's nothing like being right in front of your client, and they like it. And so, back to being on site and remaining busy. That is it. Hope to see everybody same time, same channel next week. Bye-bye. All right.